All right. So, Becs, good to see you. Can you tell the chat who you are, what you're about, and what we're going to be talking about today?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I am Bex, or Rebecca. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I'm a parent, center left liberal, and unfortunately for the year of 2025, I am also a trans woman. My day job is in technology, but I have been super passionate about politics, particularly now and particularly since becoming a parent, honestly. So I am kind of dipping my toes into the world of political writing and commentary, debate, content creation. So yeah, really I really like the message that I hear from you about kind of building that more sane center coalition to hopefully bring down the temperature and kind of restore things to a saner position in our society, because I think we're at a really toxic point and we're kind of reaching a flashpoint that we might not be able to come back from. So hopefully I can try to do my part, as small as it may be, to, make some change.
No, I appreciate that. So, for those of you who might be, I understand that one-on-ones aren't everybody's cup of tea, but I think they're important in order to help build the community, have real conversations, all that kind of stuff. So, I would appreciate it if you guys hung out and with me and Bex as we kind of talk about this. So, I had a recent gentleman named North, who's a Never Trump Republican, approach me and say, "Hey, listen, dude, like, don't be a liberal, don't be a right-wing liberal, because that's not what you really are. Let's try to fight for the sane right." And we were talking about, like, how do we do that on the back end? And we need to attract more people into this kind of like sanity movement, I guess. But what I realized, and I think it's true, 60 to 70% of my audience are liberals who we agree on like 60% of shit, 70% of shit, but then we fight viciously on the last 30 or 40%. And so that's fine. That's politics. So we need to have a place, in my opinion, where the sane right wing can go. And I think that's going to be more north. But then I do think that we need like a sane coalition where effectively it's like, you're a person, I'm a person. We're both citizens of the United States. We both care about the Republic. We don't agree on where we need to go necessarily, but we're both fighting for like a better world for our children and society.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty much how I feel about it. I mean, I think I remember when I was more of a young adult and I wasn't super politically active, but I mean, politics felt a little more like, I don't know, we disagree on how to make things better, not whether we want to make things better in the first place. We didn't want to tear down the existing system. We didn't want to, human rights weren't really kind of up for debate. Um, and I
Now,
guess as part of, oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, so what years did you serve, out of curiosity?
2010 to 2014. So when I was getting out, that was like kind of the beginning of like the bro vet culture, and
Yeah.
where social media was really kind of getting into high gear.
But what I think is interesting about what you just said is that there are leftists and liberals and progressives who criticize the Bush administration and criticize the war on terror, and they're, I think, correctly saying that, well, we cared about human rights if you were a U.S. citizen, right? But if you were a jihadist or accused jihadist or an Islamist or an Afghan, suspected of being a jihadist sympathizer, then we didn't care about your human rights. And so we're effectively like in the slippery slope of what people were calling out during the war on terror now, where we kind of eroded the American moral argument. But that doesn't change my perspective necessarily, because just because we started the erosion back then doesn't mean we don't need to reinforce it now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess being younger back then, it didn't feel quite as um like it would happen here, you know? It's like,
Yep.
well, I know this is kind of shitty, but hopefully as,
Yeah,
things
but
wind down with the
torturing
war,
jihadists with waterboarding,
of
it's not like we're
of
killing
course.
them, and
Right,
they're
exactly.
jihadists. So,
Yeah,
like, do I really
exactly.
care? And also the way that we're torturing them is like we're doing sleep deprivation where we're playing rock and roll music, but the rock and roll music is good anyways. So, like that's their fault for not liking rock and roll music. And then also the way that they torture people is by taking power tools and like, chopping off hands and drilling their hands. So you're a jihadist and you're complaining about listening to rock and roll music so you can't sleep, and you're complaining about being waterboarded, but realistically a month ago you were, sawing off people's hands with an electric saw. So like we were able to kind of justify it to ourselves over how bad our opponents were. But then I think what scares me, particularly about the Trump administration within the past month, is that they've taken the language of the war on terror, they've applied it to immigration, and they're using that as an excuse to blow up civilian vessels in the Caribbean and not presenting any evidence that who they are killing are the right people to kill. That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember during the Obama years, I mean, we did a drone strike on God, I can't remember his name, but he was an American citizen. And I mean,
Anwar
that was kind of
al-Awlaki.
yes, thank you. Yeah, and I mean that was a bit of a shitstorm, and it was a question like, that's an American citizen. I mean, he's a terrorist, sure, he's actively aiding the enemy. So I mean, it was a question then, but yeah, especially I mean, just blowing up these vessels off the coast of another country right now that we're not even at war with. I
Well,
mean,
and
it's
I'm gonna
insane.
say too, one of the things that scares the fuck out of me is like, as an example, they were like, oh, there were and I think they've blown up 2 or 3 now. At least that's something my chat said. But they said there were like 11 people on the boat. And they also described it as like a motorboat with like 4 outboard engines. So it's like one of those like super fast race boats. Well, for me, it's like, okay, could they have had drugs? Yes. But if they were running exclusively drugs, wouldn't they try to reduce the weight by having the minimal amount of crew possible for the mission? And then if there's 11 people, this organization is also famous for human trafficking. So did you just kill 3 narco terrorists, but you also killed maybe 8 Venezuelan civilians who were trying to like seek asylum in the United States? And for me, like, I just think like, okay, there's this American disassociation when violence happens to other people. But for me, I'm just thinking about like the Venezuelan civilian who thought that they would be seeking a better life in the United States, seeking asylum from a failed state. And instead of getting sanctuary, they get a hellfire missile to the fucking chest. Like, that's evil. I can only describe it as evil.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't describe it any other way either. I mean, it's just I don't know, it's heartless and because of the way that the social media algorithms work and the disinformation network that's really sophisticated on kind of the MAGA right, regardless of who it's propped up by. I'm not going to get into all the all the like Russia stuff, but in general, that propaganda network um it really takes the humanity out of it for so many people. When you're some shit poster on Twitter, all you see is, oh, cool, we just killed some narco terrorists off of the coast of Venezuela. And it's like, okay, but you don't think about the reality. You don't think about the humans involved, right? I mean,
No, and
even
that's the
with
argument
drug
I get
smuggling.
is like,
Yeah.
why are you
Hmm.
defending narco terrorists? And I'm
Yeah,
like, you don't know
exactly.
that they're narco terrorists, you idiot. Like, at least within the context of the war on terror, like there was I think it's Muhammad Atta or something like that. And that was one of the guys in
Yep.
Guantanamo Bay. And we actually got
Mhm.
like some level of briefing of like Muhammad Atta, he was with Al Qaeda from this year to this year. He's married to this person and he's accused of being the mastermind behind like the 9/11 terror attacks. So at least we got this public safety brief from the government saying, like, okay, this is why this guy is detained. Whereas here, does anybody have any of the names of the people killed in these terror attacks? Because I would actually be more comfortable if the federal government, which by the way, I don't trust the Trump admin, but if they were like, here's the 11 people we killed, here's their names, here's their ranks within the narco terrorist organization that we accuse them of being a part of, that wouldn't make me feel perfectly fine with it, but it would be some kind of consolation. Whereas right now, not only are we not getting that information, but we're being shamed if we ask.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't know. They're just not even pretending to justify it anymore.
Right.
And that's just it's really scary. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of a culmination of everything that's happened post 9/11. But just the fact, I mean, also that it's just so close to home. I mean, it's in our own hemisphere.
It's the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what are we really doing here, you know?
And that's the other thing too. I think that people are not realizing until it hits close to home. And I'll bring this up. This is something that's my pet peeve or something. I don't know if I'm using words correctly, but PEPFAR, USAID. My chat is probably sick of me bringing it up. But what the Trump administration did is it charged Doge with cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal government. And Elon Musk said that he thought that he was going to be able to cut $2 trillion, which was stupid and hyperbole. They found 150 billion that they recommended to Congress, and then Congress only cut 10. Well, 6.5 billion of that was PEPFAR, which was AIDS prevention worldwide, and 3.5 of it was USAID, which accounts for 70% of worldwide international aid. And so as a result of these cuts, which we didn't say, hey, Africa, hey, Europe, we're not interested in doing these programs anymore. Over the next 4 years, we're going to be drawing these down. We're looking for partners to take over the financial costs and also to take over the logistics. That's not what we did. We just cut off the faucet. And so, as a result of cutting off the faucet, if nobody steps into the gap, we already have estimated like 110,000 people dead as a result of these cuts, and then we're projected to kill millions. And so I bring up the 14 million number from the Lancet review, but people are like, oh, well, it's just a projection. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, listen, I get it's just a projection, but there are women with HIV in Africa right now giving birth to kids where if we were paying 10 cents a day, they would take that pill and that kid would not be born with HIV. But now the kids are being born with HIV and they're going to die before the age of 10. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, where's the Christianity? Where's the humanity? Where's the empathy? Where's all this bullshit? Like what the fuck?
I know it's ridiculous. I mean, even if you want to take a selfish perspective on it, where you're thinking only of, the United States, who cares about these people's lives? Who cares if the babies are born with HIV? Even if you want to take that approach, it still makes sense to fund something so cheap in the long run for the richest country in the world. I mean, the soft power that gets us is insane. And now we're just ceding our soft power in Africa to China, I believe, right? So, I mean, it's just
And people
geopolitically
bring that
speaking,
up.
it's the
People bring
stupidest
that up. They're
thing.
like, yeah, they're like, oh, Europe will step into the gap, or China will step into the gap, or somebody else will step into the gap. And I'm thinking, like, why would our rivals? I mean, I wish Europe would step into the gap, but why would our rivals and our enemies? Like, one of the biggest thing is like, don't interrupt your opponent or your enemy when they're making a mistake. And so, why would China save all these lives when they know that we can effectively bitter like America's role on the world stage for generations as a result of the Trump administration? Why would they interrupt us while we're making a mistake? And so that's where for me, like, and also China kind of has like a more technocratic approach to soft power, where they've done the Belt and Road Initiative, where they focus on infrastructure, not humanitarian aid. And so once again, like, I don't see China swooping in and being like, "Don't worry, AIDS African babies, we'll take care of you." Like, I don't see it.
Maybe not. I mean, I'm honestly not too sure. I wish I knew a little bit more about the geopolitics of that area and China in general, so I couldn't really say one way or another. But I mean, in any sense, we are ceding so much soft power that we just had for essentially free. I mean, it costs
Well, I'll give
nothing
you
in
I'll
the
give you the
long run.
general summary. The general summary is that China for the past like decade or so in Africa has
Mhm.
chosen to build infrastructure. So
Yeah.
roads, highways, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. But they're not doing so for free. They're doing so for material concessions where they have preferential treatment for gold, sand, silica,
Mm.
rare earth minerals, and all that kind of stuff. So they've taken like a more business approach to international aid than us, where we were doing like humanitarian stuff, like we'll help you with AIDS, we'll help you with disease, we'll help you with internal development. So as a result of that, what happens, at least in what I've heard, when Africans like fail to pay back their contracts, then all China doesn't freak out. All they do is they make the contracts more aggressive in their favor, where they get further material concessions. And so as a result, China can't lose. They can't lose. If the Africans pay back their loans, they still have preferential trade agreements. If the Africans don't pay back their loans, then they have even more preferential trade agreements in reference to rare materials that China needs. So yeah, we're letting them eat our lunch.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Thanks. I appreciate the context there. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just giving up our ability to be a bulwark to their expansion is kind of just, I mean, insane, honestly.
Yeah. Well, then what else? What else are you passionate about? So I'm obviously passionate about like geopolitics. I'm passionate about history. I'm passionate about the military. I think that you're right that we're in a precarious moment in American politics. But what else? I guess is like near and dear to your heart. Like, if you could dedicate your platform to something, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it really would be building that coalition from the center to kind of deprogram people that have been really captured by this last decade of just crazy social media manipulation and propaganda, and getting our discourse back to a sane place. I mean, I
Why
miss
aren't you a
being able.
communist? Okay, because I was told that all trans people are socialist, communist, revolutionary, Marxist terrorists, all that kind of stuff. Why aren't you arguing for the decommodification of basic human needs, workers owning the means of production, in a vanguard communist party? Well, why aren't you a communist?
I mean, okay, so I appreciate you asking because I love to talk about this stuff, but uh, I don't know. I mean, I'm a first generation immigrant. I came to this country when I was a kid, and I bought
From where,
into
if you don't mind my asking?
Romania. So I was born in Germany. My parents fled Romania after the revolution there, where Ceausescu was killed, and so I was born in Germany. We were there for a little while. We had asylum, and then we came to America, and I grew up here. I fully bought into the American dream. I mean, it's just I've always loved it. I mean, I joined the military. I don't know. I When I
Did you
look
get your
back.
citizenship?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm a naturalized citizen. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And did
Yeah.
you do that while you were in the military, or did you do it earlier?
No, I got my citizenship when I was a kid, yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the other thing that pisses me off is like I feel like the Constitution of the United States is so cool. And when you travel, you kind of learn how other people do it. And it's not that those societies aren't cool. I actually lived in Belgium for 3 years. So I learned French and I traveled to Germany and I traveled to France. And, obviously there's cool things about those societies. But I think that either when you're American or you fall in love with the American ideas, you realize like kind of how special it is to have like the First Amendment and freedom of speech and freedom of conscience, and the Second Amendment and the right to self-defense, and the Fourth and Fifth and 14th and Eighth Amendment, that effectively make it a part of the structure of the country to have some level of justice in its bones. And there's plenty of places where people kind of just live in this like ethereal fear of the government going too far, or this ethereal fear of governmental collapse where like they're on the verge of anarchy, like I'm sure like Romania was. And so as a
Mhm.
result, like I feel like Americans don't really understand that, but as a result of not understanding that, they don't protect it and they don't think it can happen here. And I think that's what freaks me out the most.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, it's, I don't know, I mean, when I was growing up, and I'm sure when you were growing up, I mean, it felt like the those American ideals were really instilled in us, and I mean, I don't wanna say that it was like that it was necessarily from a propaganda point of view or anything, but I mean, it really felt like, "Okay, yeah, we're America, like, yeah, we're in this thing," and even though we have a colored history where obviously we've gone wrong in the past. Every country, every culture
We had a
has
little bit of slavery and civil war,
just
like
a little bit,
just a little
right?
bit, just a
Yeah.
little bit of racism, just like a little,
Yeah.
just like a smidge of, international inventionism that might have killed a few people. But you're making a freedom omelet, you got to break some eggs, it happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I certainly don't mean to gloss over some of the darker
Some of
parts
it's
of our
super
history.
messed up.
Yeah, but generally speaking, it always felt like we are aiming toward human progress and living up to the ideals that are the founding fathers kind of set into motion when they when they did this whole thing. So now I feel like we're at this precipice where everything that we felt like America stood for is at risk of just going away. Um, and I mean, every day it's just bizarre to me. I watched the UN speech that Trump did yesterday, and I just like, I don't
It
understand.
hurts
I
you.
just don't get
It
it.
hurts you
Oh my God.
spiritually and psychically.
Every time I hear him speak, it hurts me so much. I'm like, how the fuck? But, you know,
No,
and
I do this for my
yeah.
chat. Like seriously, like what I do every single day is I wake up and I take on psychic damage for my chat, and I'm the vehicle through which they can express some degree of frustration. And I feel like I'm almost like I don't know, like I'm a shield for the insanity of the world because I'm taking on the insanity along with them. But then I can try to express their like rage and frustration. And, I can have a stroke, I can scream, like I can do all the things that they want to do, but can't because they're working normal jobs.
Yeah, yeah, you're like the lightning collector for all this. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure. Yeah,
Yes. So they can
exactly.
stay informed and they can through osmosis express like cathartic rage and frustration at what's going on in the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the you can get your 2 minutes hate for everything that's happening so that
Hmm.
you don't have to feel it yourself. Someone else can just kind of say the words for you. Yeah, no, I totally get it. I love it.
Yeah, and honestly, I recommend it. It's an okay business model so far. So I recommend, if you're getting into content creation, find the things that put you on the verge of a psychotic break. Watch that, express your near psychotic break, and then boom, people will give you money for it because they feel the same way. They feel the same way.
Yeah.
Um, the
Yeah.
um, the sorry, there was something that you said though with the frustration. So what bugs me, and I know that you're saying that you're center left. Were you raised conservative? Were you raised liberal, progressive? What was kind of your upbringing politically?
I mean, honestly, my parents were fairly Republican. They weren't like far right or anything. They were pretty middle of the road Republican. I even considered myself a Republican until I don't know. Uh,
This past
Shortly
decade's been
after I got out
brutal.
of the yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, it's interesting because I would say that my general positions haven't shifted too much, but I
Hmm.
am part of a different party right now. So I mean, I'm probably more of a centrist than um necessarily an economic liberal,
Yeah.
but I mean, as far as the current cultural zeitgeist is concerned, I might as well be a far leftist. I mean, so it's crazy, but my positions haven't changed all that much. They've refined absolutely, and especially becoming a parent, I think that changes you so much.
100%.
So I mean, yeah, so I mean, I've certainly evolved in my views, but my general positions haven't changed that much ever.
Do you have a YouTube?
I do, but I have, no content yet, so I'm trying to start building up, putting out some video essays to go along with my articles and things like that.
Okay, no problem. The people were just asking in chat. So if you have social media to shill, I'll definitely let you shill it at the end. That way people can find you.
Oh, awesome.
But
Awesome, I
the
appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. So what I was going to say too is um that's my frustration with the MAGA movement is that I feel like I can articulate every kind of conservative philosophy that I was raised with. So like social conservative, get married, have kids, try to minimize promiscuous sex or premarital sex. Like don't get STDs, don't do hard drugs, right? Now, is that like kind of do most people think like social conservatism is actually like hyper Christian living? Probably, but broad strokes, would a social conservative accept that secular definition of social conservatism? Absolutely. And then same thing with fiscal conservatism. Let's not spend so much money as a country that we end up collapsing the republic through debt. Now, are there insane fiscal conservatives who want to like take away every social safety net? Absolutely. But is that the steel man of the position? 100%. And I agree with it. And so I could go down another two or three conservative philosophies that I like, they're in my bones. Like they're the way that I perceive the world. But when I look at MAGA and I look at them violating the First Amendment, trying to violate the Second Amendment, knowingly violating the Fourth, Fifth, and Eighth Amendment, violating the 14th, and then trying to violate the 12th and the 22nd, which is the president running for a third term. When I see them not only violating those things, but thinking they're doing the right thing and cheering it on, it scares the fuck out of me because that's 55% of the Republican Party choose Trump as their first candidate. And another 35% of the party goes along with it. And they're just like, well, the Democrats are worse. So what are you going to do? That scares me. That scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah, that really scares me too, and part of part of my thesis that I've been kind of working on internally and just that I've been trying to write about, is honestly, it's kind of a brain dump of everything I've been thinking in this political era that we've been in for a while now, and I think that most people and I could be wrong, but I think that most people would probably describe themselves as moderates, independents, even if they identify with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. I think most people like to think of themselves as independent, in some sense. But if you are apolitical and even slightly conservative leaning, your Facebook feed is going to look insane compared to someone who's on the far left or whatever. But I mean, it's kind of crazy how this disinformation network works. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. There's
Well,
um
you know
a
what's mad
damaging
funny to
story. Oh
me,
yeah,
if I
yeah,
could interject, what's mad funny to
yeah,
me
absolutely.
is that you said like, oh, well, I'm like a center lefty and I'm kind of a moderate and I still have a lot of my Republican values, but I'm a part of the Democratic Party right now. So everybody thinks that like I'm a communist or whatever. But what's so funny to me is like I come from Twitch and YouTube politics where it's the exact opposite. So the way that like Facebook or your social network or your family or whatever, you might be like the communist in there or whatever. Me as like a moderate righty who's like chill with like racial and sexual minorities, I'm a fucking, I'm a Nazi. And so like, it's so
Of
the
course, yeah.
siloing of like political tribes is also like massively contributing to this instability.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm actually writing a new article for my Substack, kind of about this, about the culture war, and I'm kind of likening it to King of the Hill, a game of King of the
Mm.
Hill, where the left kind of held the hill for a long time, and then we just decided to start fighting on way too many fronts. I mean, I think I think a lot of people can relate, even people on the left. It's something that I think most people didn't want to articulate for fear of backlash in the culture that we were in. But I'll be honest, I mean, a lot of the woke stuff that was kind of like the prevalent part of the culture felt a little hostile to the broader population, and I think that turned so many people off, and it did give the opening for kind of the MAGA crowd to do this, extreme messaging toward the center, like, "Hey, we're normal. We're not gonna yell at you for being white, for being a dude, for being whatever," and it
Yeah.
just started to feel like that's the normal sane
Two
party.
two
Yeah.
things popped into my head. One's less
Mhm.
complicated than the other one. There's this like YouTube skit where it's like a guy like he's doing the superhero meme where he's like chopping wood in the woods, and then like a progressive walks up and they're like, "We need you back, straight white man," and then he's like, "Oh, I thought you didn't need me. I thought you just needed me to sit down and shut up." And then she's like, "No, no, no, no. We need you as a part of the coalition." And he's like, "I'll come back under conditions. I want to say slurs." And like, and that's like, but dude, that's kind of how it is. Like,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
alienated a pretty like men are energetic, they're aggressive, they like throwing elbows, all that kind of stuff. And it did feel like aggressive young men weren't welcome in the coalition. And so as the result, they felt alienated. And then the other thing that popped into my head was what drives me crazy about the anti SJW wave, of which I was a part. I watched Sargon of Akkad, I watched Shoe on Head, like I watched all these liberals who were, criticizing the far left. But if you go look at the trans creators that they were criticizing, like Riley Dennis and Milo Stewart and Riley Dennis, they got like 30,000 views for their most popular videos, where they're like, if you don't date a trans person, you're a bigot and you're a piece of shit and you should kill yourself. Those videos got like 30,000 views. But the things from the anti SJWs got like millions of views. And they're like, the trans community says if you're not willing to date a trans person, you're a Nazi. And then it's like, boom, it just like took off. And so, um, sorry for yapping, but effectively, like,
No,
I,
you're
I
good.
can understand why liberals and progressives would be defensive of the fact that they're like, these are smaller crazies, but you guys pretend every liberal and every progressive believes the most hardcore left wing idea. That's
Mhm,
hard.
and I mean, yeah, no, it really is, and I mean, as a result of this, like, kind of really polarized culture war, you almost feel like you have to defend the crazies on your side just so that you don't give up any ground, right? I mean,
Mm.
sane Republicans, they probably feel like they need to generally defend Donald Trump, even though they probably disagree with a lot of the things that he says. And then on our end, we've had this fight about, trans women in sports for a while that I just don't see why that's ground we're fighting on. When, the broader fight, if you zoom out, is like, should we kind of be legally allowed to exist? So it's
Exist?
like, yeah, like can we
Yeah. Do
focus
do I
on the thing
need
that's
to
important
be?
first?
Sorry,
Yeah.
this is way too pragmatic of a take. So,
No, you're good. You're good.
the yeah, so for me, like my fight, if I was a trans sympathetic person, and I'm a trans sympathetic person, but like my fight, I would focus on like no housing discrimination, right? No employment discrimination, no education discrimination, making sure that trans people can become employed, happy, safe members of society without people being vicious to them. That's what I would focus on. Whether or not you need to be able to compete in the binary sex or gender category at the Olympics is like super far down my list of priorities.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, absolutely, right? Like, I mean, life already isn't fair for
right.
anyone, and then if you're trans, you have like another kind of layer of life really fucking sucks. It's not fair. So I mean, why fight about the sports thing? Like, even if you can look at it with a little more nuance and say like, oh, if you transition from like before puberty and you never went through blah blah blah, you can have that discussion, but you can't really in the
Not in this
climate that we're
environment.
in.
In this environment,
No.
in this
Yeah.
environment right now, with a Republican or MAGA like political triumvirate where they effectively control the Supreme Court, the executive branch, and the legislature, and the legislature is actively hostile to trans people. Like, I still think that if you're a trans person in California or New York or the Pacific Northwest or something, you'll be fine. Like there shouldn't be too many MAGA lynch mobs coming after you. However, if you're a trans person in South Carolina or North Carolina or Kentucky, then not only might you deal with the hostility of your neighbors, and also like I've seen really brazen, ugly statements to trans people in person before. Not only will you deal with the hostility of your neighbors, but you might deal with the hostility of your own government, where they're trying to say like, oh, you have to use the bathroom of your biological sex. But then if you were born male and you go into the men's restroom, you might get the shit kicked out of you. And so they're effectively making it more dangerous, or banning you from extracurriculars and sports that don't make sense. And what I mean by that is like, while sports, we're both kind of saying like sports isn't a big deal. Listen, I don't give a shit if a trans girl or a trans guy play like recreational badminton. You know what I'm saying? Like, I,
Right.
I don't I
Yeah.
don't think your biological advantage is gonna like, you're not gonna like hit. I don't even know what they call the thing with the feathers on the back, but you're not gonna hit that so hard
Yeah.
that you're gonna like murder a random assigned female at birth person because you hit the badminton thing too hard. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, yeah, the culture war right now is crazy. And I mean, I don't know. It's pretty wild. And sorry, I totally don't mean to make this to like go too far into,
No, we don't have to. We can go wherever you want to go.
talking about. No, no, no worries. I mean, I'm happy to talk about it. I just didn't want to like kind of take over the conversation with kind of I guess, my life circumstances. But I mean, obviously, I'm fortunate. I work in technology, so I mean, I'm generally a uh pretty accepting bunch. Aside from, I guess, the CEOs right now, whatever. But I have good insurance. I'm able to kind of live my life and kind of exist through the world with a little more ease than some other people in my position. So obviously, I kind of recognize that privilege that I have, and it's awesome. And I'd be lying if I said that's not part of why I do want to kind of move into this political space, because I do think that the general public, whether it's warranted or not, kind of has a an image in their heads of trans people as like kind of the blue-haired liberal who's like whatever. I don't know. Not to get into the caricature too much, but I mean, I I would posit that a majority of us are like pretty chill, and honestly, we just want the government to stay the hell out of our lives and just let us live. I mean, like, I'm a parent. I
Which
want to be able to take my
libertarians and
son to the
liberals
playground and
yeah, libertarians and
Mhm.
liberals should be chill with. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing. I would say that having friends like Brianna Wu, who I get it, her a lot of people don't like her politics. I understand. But having friends like Brianna Wu or Taftaj, who is a person in the political space, or Riley Grace Roshong, Taftaj is an intelligent, insightful, distant right wing person. Maybe she's not distant right, but she understands distant right wing philosophy, and she has like really weird, like esoteric political takes, but she's entertaining and funny. She just happens to be trans. Like she's a cool person who happens to be trans. And then same thing with Riley Grace Roshong. She's in the Baltimore state legislature, I think, as some kind of like consultant. She's a lawyer. She's successful. She's this, she's that. She is 10,000 different things. And then she happens to be trans. And so I think what
Mhm.
happens oftentimes with like the quote unquote most normal trans people is that they're so busy pursuing their lives that it feels like a liability to participate in the online space because you become the target of like vitriol, attacks, doxing, harassing, swatting. So if you're already in a precarious position, why would you risk that? But then it's kind of what's needed because then what's left in the online space is kind of like the most extreme activist trans folk. And for the extreme activists, like I understand because they feel like their existence is under threat. So I understand why they're motivated to be as aggressive as they are, but then I feel like their aggression is counterproductive.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm not super familiar with Brianna Wu or Taftaj, but I was on RGR's panel
She's
this
great.
past weekend. So yeah, yeah, it was awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's great to see other people in this space that are kind of like, I don't know, just we're just normal people who just happen to have this one circumstance in our life, and so I
And be
guess that
passionate about
yeah,
politics.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I guess tying it back into this more center coalition that we're hoping to build, um, at least from it's a bit of a two-pronged approach. One is more institutional, which is a little more lofty, a little more theoretical, um, and then the other is the kind of social aspect, which is kind of fixing this broad capture that the right wing has on culture right now, social media, alternative media. I mean, as silly as it might sound, I really do think that the alternative
Okay.
media space is the battlefield of the information war. Um, so I think that a sane coalition needs to organize and fight there, to work on deprogramming people and kind of building this coalition from the middle out.
We're not the first that have had this idea though, and what I would say
Mhm.
is just because I don't want to watch the space like chew you up and turn you into a bitter person. The thing with like sanity is it's just not as fun as blood and sex and drama and this and that. And so what I try to do is I try to engage with insane content from a relatively sane perspective. Now that makes me like a crazy person and I have plenty of hyperbole, but I try to say like we were talking about having kids and loving your kids and how to responsibly run your life. We were talking about that in the context of Tim Miller from the Bulwark getting bullied by a bunch of MAGA people who were saying that he was responsible for the Charlie Kirk shooting through his rhetoric. You know, so we're looking at something insane, but we're trying to criticize the insane stuff and bring some level of normalcy. But the other part about that, with like the Sane coalition, I suppose, is like I think that we should have like a sane fortress, like a place where people can congregate in digital communities where we all know that everybody is trying to push for like the best of what America is, and you can be a liberal or a progressive or whatever, or you can be a right winger or whatever. But I think this popped into my head while we were talking about the anti SJW sphere. Maybe what we need to do is like an anti SJW information war push, where you just take like the absolutely most insane, schizophrenic, 30 view right wing shit, and you blow it up on social media by large left wing creators, and you're just like, this is the right wing, you know, and then you just have like some like half naked redneck covered in tattoos talking about race war and like all that kind of shit, and then just making fun of them for hours. Maybe that's what we need, is a anti SJW wave.
Yeah, so I mean, just turning it into blood sports, but subtly trying to influence people to be like, "Hey, stop being
Well,
so
and just
fucking
showing how
crazy."
schizophrenic the right is, dude. Because, like, listen, I
Yeah,
consider myself
yeah.
right wing, but after the Charlie Kirk assassination, there were people on the right wing who were unironically asking Donald Trump for permission to grab rifles and clear their neighbors' houses, hunting for
Jesus
leftists.
Christ.
And I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, you're disconnected from reality. You think you're going to get an AR-15 and go kick in your neighbor's door and you're not going to get shot in the fucking chest? Are you crazy? But that's how they think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I
Not
mean,
all of
yeah,
them, but the
it's wild.
schizophrenics.
No, of course. Of course. Yeah, I mean, but I mean, you're right in the way that the, kind of SJWs with a few views were kind of elevated into the public discourse. It it's probably not a bad idea to do that on the other side, at
I think
least
the
to
problem
have a counter to their craziness.
I think the problem though, already seen problems in my own idea, is that like it's 55% of the party. I think that's the problem. Is like, so if you look at it, 1/3 of the country votes left, 1/3 of the country votes right, 1/3 of the country doesn't vote at all. And so, with the SJWs, with the leftists, which by the way, I think they did have a disproportionately dominant influence on pop culture and internet culture. But you're really talking about maybe 20% of the Democratic Party. I think they either identify as progressive or as socialist, whereas 80% of them are just like Democrats or liberals. Whereas I think with the right wing, like I said, 55% of the party is MAGA, and so you might be like making fun of them, but you're making fun of them, but it's half of the Republican Party, so it's kind of, I don't know if you really get that like bullying, beating up on people vibe when it's half of the Republican Party.
That's
It's a challenge.
that's true. Yeah, but I do think that there is ironically a very diverse spectrum of the MAGA types.
True.
Because I mean, of course you have those crazy dipshits who did like the
Schizo
QAnon
militias.
stuff and yeah, exactly. But then you also have just really average working class people who are MAGA, but it's because they don't see any of the craziness. They don't see the crazy shit that Donald Trump says because their social media feed shows them the distilled memes. They're not seeing any of the real discourse. They're just saying like, "Hey, Donald Trump did this for you." It could be an absolute lie, but I mean, as far as they know, that's the reality. I stopped 7 wars, 8 wars, 9 wars,
Which,
$20
dude,
trillion dollars. Like Jesus
oh.
fucking Christ. It's
Can I
it's
tell you
fucking nuts.
the fact, I'm trying not to have a stroke right now.
No,
But the
you're
fact
good.
that anybody would see that and be like, "Oh, wow, Trump's doing great." You understand that like Biden could probably go back to like near crises during his administration that were international, where America kind of like put their weight on the situation a little bit and said like, "Hey, Cambodia, don't invade this territory of uncontrolled space because of XYZ geopolitical reason." And Biden could have gone like, "Oh yeah, I prevented 7 wars." But the thing is, like, Democrats, at least most normie people who are involved in politics, aren't going to accept that as real or true. And so the fact that anybody could buy that bullshit is alarming to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty bizarre. I don't,
Like,
I
did
don't
did
get
I
it. But I
prevent
mean,
the Syrian war by not invading Syria when I was in Iraq? Did I stop the
right.
war? Like, no, obviously not. It's so fucking stupid. Sorry.
No, no, yeah, I mean, you're right, you're right, and I mean, I wish people would see that, people who are apolitical, but all they see is like, "Oh, cool, this guy stopped, a bunch of wars and
He's the
saved us
candidate of
$1 trillion or
peace.
whatever." Yeah, exactly, and then they're like, "Okay, yeah, I'll vote for him, or I'll just, not vote for the Democrat or something." I don't know. It's all of it is the whole information ecosphere right now is just so wild, and AI's obviously making it even crazier. So it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves, how it matures, and hopefully the left can kind of put up a good bulwark to what the right is doing in terms of the information war. Obviously, I'd like to see kind of a bilateral disarmament on that front, but I don't think that's going to happen at this point. So yeah,
Well,
it's
that
pretty
was
scary.
that's actually where Destiny, Steven and I disagree. So he thinks that like the next step is not to disarm, but to mirror. And so he effectively said, like, well, I'm not going to disavow political violence on my side. I mean, I will when you start disavowing all the crazy shit on your side, but until you do, I'm not saying shit. And what ended up happening was a lot of people have characterized that as effectively he's endorsing political violence because he's not, calling for a cooling down of the temperature. What I've advocated for, which I think as a former Marine, maybe you'd be sympathetic to, I don't know. I think that liberals, no offense to my chat and no offense to you, are largely pussies and they are not capable of defending themselves. They're scared of guns. They're scared of self-defense. They're scared of extra legal violence. They're scared of militias. They're scared of AR-15s. And so what needs to happen, in my opinion, is they need to have like a porcupine strategy when it comes to violence. They need to make the guy who is begging Donald Trump to go door to door capturing leftists in his name, that guy needs to know that the first door that he's going to kick in is the first door that he's going to catch buckshot. And so I'm not advocating for anything illegal. I'm advocating for self-defense. And I think that liberals could be more scary if they actually knew about guns and were competent with civilian firearms.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I did see the discourse with Destiny, and I definitely I don't necessarily agree with his take on that one, just because I don't think that mirroring the strategy that the other side is using is necessarily the right approach. I think countering their strategy is absolutely right, but you need the right counter, and mirroring, putting a
Horrible
mirror up to
behavior.
MAGA. Yeah, I mean, putting a mirror up to MAGA really just isn't gonna move the needle, I don't think. So you need a different approach, and I mean, I do agree. I've That's something that has always bugged me about the liberals broadly, is this aversion to, guns and the Second Amendment. And I mean, look, I as a parent, like, I every time I see a school shooting, I'm like, "Oh my god, like, something needs to change." But I'm also a big proponent of the Second Amendment. I mean, I own a lot of guns that, if the FBI is listening, I've lost in a boating accident. But, yeah, so, obviously, you can't say that Donald Trump is a fascist and then in the next breath
Let's
advocate for,
disarm.
we need to take, yeah, you
Yeah.
cannot disarm. Like, Jesus Christ, like, come on. I mean, I don't know. I firmly believe that we're we're on the precipice of true authoritarianism in America, and
If he could, he
pushing
would.
disarmament is, yeah,
Yeah, if
absolutely,
he could, he would.
absolutely.
If Donald Trump
Hmm.
could be president for life, if he could
Hmm.
ignore the Constitution, if he could ignore the judiciary, he would. He would. It's as
Hmm.
simple as that. Now, people can make the argument like, well, our institutions are strong enough, our judiciary is strong enough, there's enough sane Republicans that they'll dial in Trump's actual policy implementation. But for me, what's already been dialed in and hemmed in by the courts is already disastrous enough that we don't need to give a single inch when it comes to this. And then when it comes to the gun stuff, I got really frustrated today. I think Tim Miller is the head of the Bulwark or whatever, one of the pundits on the Bulwark. But hearing Tim Miller repeat, effectively in my mind, ineffective Democratic gun control rhetoric is really frustrating to me. And the reason why is like, I'm with you on every time there's a school shooting, every time I send my kid to school, I think to myself, like, it's more rare than a lightning strike, but it's still possible that some psycho could break into my kid's school, go into my kid's classroom, and butcher everyone in the class. And that's just a possibility. It's just a possibility of being alive in the United States of America with having private firearms. Now, for me, I can't really think of a gun control like 10 round magazine limits or banning AR 15s. I don't think that that is going to stop that because the Second Amendment is too robust to eliminate private firearms. What I do think, though, would not eliminate, but substantively reduce public school shootings in particular is making them harder targets. And I mean by like having buzzer doors, not having windows that you can shoot out, building buildings so they're single point entry, the way a lot of commercial buildings are built. Having classrooms being lockable with secured doors that are difficult to break in. Having a minimum of 2 school resource officers and or 1 school resource officer and 1 guardian, and making it federally required that every school that receives federal dollars, not only are we going to require you to have 1 SRO slash guardian per 500 students or 1,000 students, but we're going to subsidize it, right? We're going to give you the money so you can have the people to defend our kids. And that's the kind of solution that I think would substantively reduce like public school shootings or school shootings. But Democrats are so focused on gun control and Republicans are so focused on preventing gun control that we don't even propose a solution that might actually stop the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem in a nutshell. I mean, yeah, I would probably not take the same approach, but I wish that we could actually have that conversation in the political sphere right now where it's like, how can we actually prevent these shootings rather than, no, we need gun control. No, we need to prevent any gun control at all. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but are we going to solve a problem at all? Can we talk about it? But that just
No, we can't
doesn't
even get
happen
that far.
anymore.
And
No, no.
if you thought my solutions were too reactive, the other thing that I'm for, which is weird for a pro-gun person to say, is emergency risk protection orders, red flag laws. I'm one of the
Mhm,
first people in the state of Florida to submit one.
mhm,
And just as I'll try to tell the story briefly. There was a gentleman who was threatening to murder his nephew and his nephew's girlfriend because he was on drugs, he was doing meth, he was smoking marijuana, and he was living with his grandmother, stealing her shit and then selling it, like fencing it. And he had guns and he had shitloads of drugs. And what was going on was the grandkids of the grandma snitched on him to the grandma, and that had caused tension between grandma and the drug addict. And so as a result, this guy was saying, like, oh, I'm going to stalk you. I'm going to find you at your house. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Well, we were looking at the statutes, and effectively we had like stalking and harassment, which were felonies. But that was after he was convicted, right? So he would still have firearms for the next 6 months to a year while he's being charged, while he's erratic, while he's on drugs. He would just have firearms. And he was still sending them messages about like how he was going to kill them and torture them and all this kind of crap. And so we looked up the domestic violence statute. Well, domestic violence, it's at least the way that it was written at the time, it was immediate family and it was dating or marriage. Well, that didn't apply because it was a nephew. So it wasn't immediate family and it wasn't dating or marriage. And so eventually we did do the emergency risk protection order. And effectively, cops went to his house. They notified him that he was being charged with stalking. They did detain him and incarcerate him. He was released from jail or prison, but his Second Amendment rights were temporarily suspended until he completed, I think, a drug rehab course and until his stalking case was resolved. And so for me, I don't regret that shit at all, because if I had done what I had done for the criminal stuff, and then he'd gotten out of jail, he was still high out of his mind, he was still doing meth, he was still smoking pot, and then he murdered the nephew and the niece, I would view that as a failure in justice.
mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I wish we could all have just a little more nuance in all of our positions. I mean, it's yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I mean, I think you did the right thing, obviously, since I'm a little more on the liberal side. But yeah, I mean, it's I do wish that we could have these discussions. Assuming assuming Donald Trump actually does leave, I would really hope that that would be a bit of a signal on the left and right that we need to just kind of like chill the fuck out just for a little bit and maybe talk again. I don't know that I'm not very optimistic about it. I feel like seeing discourse more and more lately has just kind of blackpilled me, if anything. So we'll see. But
You need to get tougher. You need to get like a rhino
yeah,
hide when
right.
it comes to this stuff, because you have to realize like no idea. No, sorry, I might have to go in a moment.
No,
But
you're good.
the what I was going to say was the you have to understand that, at least in my opinion, I think that social media is an outlet. And so as a result, people say crazier shit on social media than they will in person, obviously.
Yeah.
Then I also think that people are pretty fearful of legal consequences and people are pretty fearful of violence. And so as a result, I wouldn't treat what people say on social media as a one-to-one to what they're actually going to implement in the world. It's alarming, and we need to criticize it. Thank you. It's alarming, and we need to criticize it, but like we can't assume that they're going to do what they say, right? As an example, Nick Fuentes, who I think is one of the most responsible parties for radicalizing tens of thousands of young men into Christian nationalism, when he saw Charlie Kirk get shot, I think he realized he was on the chopping block, and he called for a cool down of the temperature. And even though he's talked about dispossessing Jews from public life, he's talked about resegregating America, he's talked about, all these things that would necessitate authoritarian governmental violence. He was like, hey guys, like I still believe all of the things I say, but I think we need to chill out a little bit before more people get smoked in horrific ways. And I was just thinking to myself, it's like, how did you think you were going to get like kick Jews out of power or resegregate America? Like, did you think that like everybody was just going to take that line down? Like there wouldn't have been any violence? Like, get the fuck out of here. Basically I think a lot of these people, they're either full of shit or they don't know what they're talking about until they actually see it.
Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of chicken hawks out there.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely game, but I mean, you see someone die, someone who you're relatively near to, or at least is a colleague, and
they have the same
like,
job.
Holy shit. Yeah, I mean,
obviously they're both alternative media
involved.
Political pundits.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I do think there's a lot of chicken hawks out there in this space. I mean, and obviously, I don't know. I've seeing someone get killed is, I mean, pretty traumatic the first time. So I mean, I can understand why a lot of these people saw the Charlie Kirk video and they're like, holy shit, like.
Well, and I think that's where I was like a certain degree, because I've been talking about, you can look it up. In 2016, there was a riot where anti-fascists went to go beat up a far-right protest. And I think a neo-Nazi knocked somebody out and they hit their head on the pavement and they died. But because it was like self-defense, I think the Nazi who knocked him out got released. And I was saying all the way back in 16 when this happened, I was like, guys, this is like the opening shot in a war that you do not want. And I've been screaming the same thing for effectively a decade right now, where I'm saying like, this is, you guys want to punch Nazis, you want to shoot Nazis, you want to kill Nazis until you actually see the blood. And then same thing for the Nazis is you want to segregate society, dispossess Jews of power. You don't give a fuck about the international world. You don't care about civilians dying overseas until you see one of yours get killed. And then you go, oh shit, like this is actually real. And so for me, that lack of maturity comes from, I mean, I don't know how you feel about the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps was showing me like gore videos when I was 19. The Marine Corps was like, you're going to go overseas and you're going to take a baby seal and you're going to bash it against a telephone pole and you're going to drink its blood. Like that's like yeah. So
oh my
for
God,
me, I was like,
Pendleton for MCT. Yeah. I mean, it was just, we were watching videos of jihadis getting smoked. It was, I mean, that was just
like, holy
thing,
shit.
right?
Well, and then I had so I went in 6 and I got out in 10. So one of my combat instructors was like, he's like, yeah, you guys want to hear a fucked up story about pink mist? And like the way that he was saying it, he was talking about it like he was a serial killer. And I was like 19 and 170 pounds. And I was like, no, but like then he's like, I'm like, and of course I didn't say no. I was like, hoorah.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No, we had some guys like that as our instructors too. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
And then they're like, so I set up a claymore, and I was like, oh my God. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I was like, I knew exactly what was wrong with him. It was the same thing that was wrong with me. I enlisted in the Marine Corps, and then now, like there's something for the brainwashing process, I guess, in the Marine Corps, where like, at least for me, by the end of boot camp, I wanted to be like those guys, like I wanted to be hardcore. I wanted to be a killer. I wanted to, serve my country and defend the Republic of the United States. And I wanted to do it by smoking jihadis and this, that, the other, So, but I think I got a little bit older and I was like, you know what? Thank God I missed out on some of that. Like I saw and did some hardcore shit, but realistically, some of those dudes were just straight fucked up.
Yeah, that's kind of the same trajectory that I had. Like in the beginning, I really did want to be just like that. I was like, all right, cool. I was trying to get into MARSOC, and then I got injured, and I'm like, I think I'm done. I think I'm
I think
just
I'm gonna
gonna
chill
get
out.
out. Yeah, so I went to college, and yeah, then that was kind of it for me. But yeah, were you in Pendleton for MCT?
Nope, Paris Island.
Oh, okay, never mind.
So
I was curious
I'm
if
East Coast. East Coast.
East Coast. Okay, gotcha. I didn't know
So
if you had any encounters with the Daywalker, but
no, no, tell me.
oh no, he was a sergeant major. He looked like Wesley Snipes. Man, this guy would walk around
Based.
Pendleton. He would walk
No,
around
no, that's
Pendleton.
awesome
Oh my
though.
God.
So
Step in the grass, have your hand in your pockets. This guy just pops out of nowhere. It's
nice, nice. No, that still happens to me sometimes though. I've been out since 2010. So I've been out for 15 years. And whenever
yeah.
I'm chewing gum and I'm walking, whenever I stick my hands in my pockets, whenever
hmm
like I kind of think about like oh, like I shouldn't have a hat on indoors. Like I don't wear a lot of hats, but if I do wear a hat, I'm like, oh, I need to take this off because I'm inside. And so
Yeah.
there's all these like
Yeah.
little cultish traditions that like I still carry with me 15 years later. So yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I still carry things in my left hand until I realize I'm like, wait, I have two hands. I can use them
Yeah,
both
and I don't
now,
need to
right?
salute
Like
anybody. I'm good.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Best. Well, my wife, we have an appliance guy here, and he's taking a look at our broken drying machine, so I need to take care of that. Wife is
Yep.
home with the kids. She probably needs home with the kids. And we did run for about an hour, so I hope that's good for the people who are going to watch the VOD. I unlist my live stream VOD so I can cut them up and then do it, but I'll send you an unlisted link if you want to use this for content in any way. And
Oh
then
yeah, that'd be awesome.
is there any other topic that you think is important that we discussed now? Yeah, I guess I should ask that question first. Is there any other topic that remains uncovered that you think we should talk about?
I mean, I definitely want to be respectful of your time. So I mean, we could do this async, but I was actually curious to get your any advice that you might have on kind of getting started in this space and getting
I have
established, anything like
tons.
that.
I will
Okay.
yap your ear off, and I'll do so now.
Thank
So,
you. Thank
so,
you.
so basically, what I would say is DM me as well. So you're
Okay.
already halfway there, okay? And what I mean by that is you have the microphone, you have the web camera, you're capable of getting on Discord, you're capable of getting on StreamYard. So that's like half of the battle. The other half of the battle is putting out the kind of content that you want and making it predictable so your audience can engage with it. So, as an example, Josiah, Pondering Politics, he's like, I don't know, 600K subs. He's a liberal. He does Midas touch 10 to 15 minute Trump bad content 3 to 5 times a day. So he wakes up, he finds a current event, he does a preliminary outline script, he speaks extemporaneously for 10 to 15 minutes, and he puts it out there with a predictable thumbnail. And as a result, he's found his niche and he's doing really well in that niche. And God bless him, and he's blown up. And, I'm really proud of him and I'm happy for him. However, if I did his job, I would probably kill myself because I cannot do 5 15-minute Trump bad videos per day. So, if you like live streams, if you like debates, if you like engaging with chat, if you like interviews, if you like panels, if you like video essays, you have to try each style of content that you're interested in, and the one that you are most attracted to, you need to repeat ad infinitum. So if you're a video essayist, do video essays and only do video essays. If you're a streamer, stream and only do streams. And the reason why I say that is because I spent 2 years throwing shit at the wall from 2020 to 2022. I did every style of content, and I would have one piece of content blow up, but then the other content within that category wouldn't do as well. And then in another category, I would have one piece of content blow up, and then all the other content in that category wouldn't do as well. And it's because I was throwing out so many different styles that the audience couldn't get a predictable product from me. And so as a
Mhm.
result, I confused the algorithm and I confused the audience. So
Okay.
you can waste a lot of time doing everything when realistically you should find what you're good at and what you're passionate about it, and you should quintuple down on that thing.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. That's super helpful. That's
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of a crazy world jumping into it. So
it is.
it's
It's
hard to know
fun.
where to start. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's
Awesome.
what I would say too. So do a 10-minute extemporaneous rant about a topic you're passionate about. Post that, see how the algorithm receives it. Do a 2-hour panel debate. See if people love you and they give you a bunch of super chats in your live stream. Do stream 10 to 20 hours a week, which you might not be able to do with a family, but try it anyways. And if you like that and you fall in love with it, then grind that out. And yeah, that's. I mean, I have 10,000 other different advice about like tech and all that kind of bullshit, but that's the main thing that I would do as a beginner.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. That's super helpful. Thanks, Connor.
Of course. And then can you shout out where you are, how people can find you, and just in case people are joining the stream, can you tell them what you're about and what you want to do?
Yeah, definitely. I am Bex. I am a center left creator, Marine Corps veteran, a parent, and a trans woman. And I am trying to get into the political media space. I'm hoping to build a middle out coalition to kind of capture, recapture people from the insanity that has plagued our politics for the last decade. You can find me on Twitter at just_Becs, BECS, YouTube, Unaligned Politics. No videos yet, but hopefully soon. And my website slash Substack is unaligned.sh.
Your shout out, perfect. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
Now work on it on an intro. So for instance, every single piece of content I do, I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and a real Republican, meaning I believe in real Republican values. And then boom, I go into the content. That rant used to be like 2 minutes because I was like, I'm a Marine. I went to Paris Island. I went to Okinawa. I deployed. I was a pogue. I did this. I did that. Then I got a college degree. Then I was a cop. And so like what happened was I communicated the same information, but I did 2 minutes instead of 20 seconds. And so as a result, 1 minute into it, people were like, we get it. Shut the fuck up, please. So like brevity is the soul of wit. I'm terrible at it, but I try.
For sure. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm terrible at it too, so I'm working on it.
No, being verbose with other verbose people is fun. I still have like
Yeah,
155 people who have given me money today, despite me being annoying and verbose, and I consider that a blessing. So, all
I
right,
love
well,
it. I
Bex,
love it. And I appreciate everybody that tuned in for this chat as well. And I appreciate you having me.
yeah, of course. We will watch your career with great interest. If I can do anything for you, please let me know, and we'll stay in contact so we can build that coalition.
Sounds great. All right. Thanks, Connor. Take
Yep,
care.
bye.